Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another video. In today's video, I'm going to be going over what I keep in my secure container. So this is also going to include, what type of key holder do I use? What do I keep in my injector case? On top of some other options that you might also want to run yourself. I will also be going over stuff that you can put in your alpha container and your beta container and your epsilon container that will, hopefully benefit you if you are new to the game and you haven't decided what you want to keep in your container. Maybe this video is for you, or if you're an experienced player and you just want to see what I have in my own container and you're just curious, well, this video is for you. So let's get into it, because I get asked this a lot. What should I prioritize on what I should keep in my container and what should I not keep in there? We're just going to get into it. So there's been a few changes to the Gamma container since the last time I made this video. The major one being you can no longer store mags in your container. So normally before, what I would do is I would just keep one full 60 rounder here and I wouldn't bother bringing any extra ammo with me, and I would just keep some more mags in my rig. However, that has now changed to me often keeping 2 stacks of ammo in here, with bringing maybe 3 mags with me with whatever gun that I'm running, on top of 2 full stacks of ammo there in my container. Also, I keep a sick case on me at all times, no matter what map I'm doing, because in the sick case, I always leave some space so I can put dog tags in there mid-raid. It acts as a dog tag holder, and you can also put pro kill necklaces in here. You can put bitcoins in here. You can put money in here. You can put all kinds of really awesome stuff in here, up to, GP coins, and it'll just end up saving you a bunch of slots in your bag or your rig or your pockets. So you can just put it all into the sick case. Now, if you are running customs a lot and you're doing a lot of safe runs, I would recommend running a docs case, because unfortunately in the sick case, you cannot actually place documents in here. So I'm talking about intelligence folders, I'm talking about diaries. That makes it better to use a documents case rather than a sick case for, maps that you're running safes on, mostly customs, obviously, because that's where everybody does their safe runs, because there's a million of them. And there isn't really that many safes on a lot of their maps. Yes, there's a couple on reserve. Yes, there's a couple on shoreline. But, you don't really go to shoreline to run the safes. You go to shoreline to loot all the high tier all the high tier loot spots. And of course, look for LEDXs. Now, what else do I keep in my container? Well, I keep an alu splint. I keep this in here because these are 15k each. And it's always handy to have an alu splint. And now you might be asking, well, why are you running a serve kit with an alu splint? Like, you could just take out the alu splint and just use the serve kit to fix your brakes. Well, lads, it takes 20 seconds to use a surgery kit compared to, the 3 seconds it takes to fix a brake with an aluminium splint. If you end up getting a break in your leg and you don't want to use your painkiller or waste your painkiller, you can, of course, just, quickly hit an alu splint and move on if your leg isn't blacked out. So this is why I run a surgery kit with an alu splint. The injector case is something that I will recommend to get to every single Tarkov player, no matter what your skill level is, no matter what your experience is. The med case or the injector case is easily the best item they have ever added into EFT. They're very expensive on the flea market, coming in at 1.2 mil. However, you can do the barter trade from Therapist and get it substantially cheaper, especially if you go and farm the items yourself. Now, what do I keep in my injector case? I keep propitols up top, and I'll keep one on my bar. So if I end up using my propitol, I just snag another one out of my injector case and I put it on my bar, and then after the raid is over, I will replace the propitol. Now, why propitol specifically? Mostly because it gives you passive health regeneration, and it also, of course, it acts like a morphine. It's like a painkiller as well. So this is why I use propitols, and sometimes I will also bring an adrenaline with me. So I'll use a propitol, I'll use an adrenaline, and I'll get a pretty decent burst of health regeneration if I don't feel like I'm injured enough to want to use a green stim. Then moving on from that, I keep the SJ6s in here as well. These give you a massive bonus to your stamina and your stamina recovery. So why would you want to use this? Well, if you're spawning on shoreline and you get a bad spawn, you hit an SJ6 and you will still most of the time be able to get to the resort before any other players, because your stamina is so much higher than theirs. It's a great tool for getting out of really bad spawns as quickly as possible. There's a lot of maps where you will spawn in a terrible place, where once you spawn in, you can decide whether you want to blow your SJ6 or not. For me, I use them pretty much every single raid, no matter where I spawn anyway. I think the SJ6 is probably the best stim in the game for getting away from bad spawns and getting yourself into a more advantageous position before you end up getting caught out from other angles. Moving on from that, we've got the ETGCs, which I just call green stims. these give you an enormous burst of healing. Like, it is insane. So what I'll often do if I end up getting really, really injured in the middle of a fight is I'll hit my Propital, I'll hit my green stim. Within like a couple of seconds, my health is already back to, 70%, and another couple of seconds later, it's already back to being full. In this time, if I am being pushed, they will be surprised because I will have so much more health back when they just heard me coughing and spluttering and, spitting my guts out all over the place just, a couple of seconds ago. So the green stim has been huge for me in a lot of situations. It has definitely been the reason why I've survived a lot of raids and a lot of encounters with other players. And I love this stim so much. It is super expensive though. These come in at usually like over 100k each. You can see some here for 90k, but usually they come in at over 100k each. I absolutely love them. I keep usually 4 of them on me, but I just haven't restocked it since the last time I used one. And these stims are absolutely fantastic, and it is worth maybe having like at least one of them on you if you don't want to invest in a couple of 100k and getting 4 ETGCs. I always recommend you have at least one of them on you. Next up, we've got some Zagustans, which are the hemostatic drug injector. Now, what do Zagustans do? If you end up getting a lot of bleeds, let's say you just amass like 3 bleeds from being shot by some guy who has a really, really high chance, to cause bleed ammo. So, rip rounds or whatever else that causes a ton of bleeds, you can basically hit a Zagustan and it will stop all of your bleeds. And it is fantastic. It'll also stop the bleeds then as well for 180 seconds for heavy and light bleeding. So I don't use these very often, but I always like to keep them in here just in case I run into some guy who's running an MPX or like an MP5 or an MP9 with high bleed chance ammo, because this will make the fight so much easier. You would be surprised. I know 1 bleed isn't really much to worry about. I know even 1 heavy bleed isn't really much to worry about. But dude, if you get like 2 heavy bleeds and then like a regular bleed, the amount of damage that you take from it is insane. And a lot of the time as well, the biggest problem with not having these stims on you is sometimes you can't heal your critical limbs fast enough, i.e. your thorax and your head, to the point where your thorax will get blacked out or your head will get blacked out. When that happens, your raid is essentially over and you need to leave and not get into another fight with another player, because your life is probably going to be ended with a single bullet. If any damage transfers to your thorax or your head, you are dead. So that is why I keep Zagustans on me. They've come in handy a couple of times, but I don't usually run them very often. Like, I don't end up using them very often, but I'll keep them in here just as a backup. The XTG-12, I've been doing a lot of cultist hunting recently. Obviously, if I get stabbed and I get poisoned, I want to have one of these on me, because it is actually a very aggressive amount of damage that you take from being stabbed by a cultist with a poison knife. So you always want to make sure that, especially if you're hunting cultists, to have an XTG-12 antidote on you. You can just leave it in here if you want, or if you're not planning on doing any nighttime raids, you can just take it out and then you'll have another slot for storing stims that you find in raid. It is completely up to you. And obviously, I like to keep a mule stim on me in case I end up doing a raid where I get incredibly overweight and I feel like I need the effect of the mule in order to get out of the raid at a pace which I feel comfortable with. I don't like leaving raids when I'm very, very sluggish, very, very slow moving, and I feel like the mule stim will let you get back to your somewhat normal feeling of movement when, you just have a crap ton of gear to get out of the raid with. It doesn't happen to me very often, so I just keep 1 mule in here, just on the off chance that I end up having a good raid. I'd like to have it there as backup. And then obviously you probably want to just take this out, and then leave these 7 slots open, or 6 slots open. It's kind of up to you, but I like to at least leave a couple of slots empty in here, because as I said earlier, if you find stims in raid, you can store them in here and they won't take up valuable space in your backpack or your rig or your pockets. And then if you end up dying, you've got the loot that you've kept in your sick case, and then you've got the couple of injectors you can sell in order to make at least a little bit of your money back. So that is everything that I run in my gamma, and that is the reason why I run this stuff in my gamma. I know some people will just not bring spare ammo with them and they'll keep all their meds in their container. I don't like doing that. I like to make sure that I have a Saloa or an IFAK, a morphine or a Propital, and a hemostatic syringe here on 4, 5, and 6. The reason why I think that's important is because in the time that you have to press tab, and then, right click, use, right click, use, right click, use, that is like super valuable time, especially when you're in the middle of a fight. And I think a lot of people lose a lot of fights because they don't want the chance of losing their meds, which I understand, but it is also probably fucking you in the process. Like, never ever run raids without having your meds bound that can stop bleeds, having your quick to use morphine or propofol or even a pack of painkillers, and your hemostats to stop your heavy bleeds as quickly as you possibly can. And I could not imagine playing this game without having those meds actively bound. And a lot of players that I end up killing, I will loot through their bodies, I will loot through their pockets, their rigs, their bags, and no meds to be found. Oh, and guess what? They died because they probably didn't have their meds bound in a place where they could easily access them. Now, one other thing, I know you guys are like, why don't you take a stack of BS out and put like a golden star here? Well, the reason for that is I don't actually like pre-painkillering in all of my fights. I don't like that mechanic. I hope they get rid of it. And I also hope that with the introduction of the addiction mechanic, that we won't see people just doing this all the time. It's very frustrating when you shoot a player and they seem to take absolutely, no side effects from, being shot, because they're on painkillers and they just continue to run away and reposition or whatever. So it's just a mechanic that I don't like and I don't agree with, and therefore I don't use it. I very, very rarely ever will pre-pain before a fight. If it's like a 5-man or something, yes, I'll hit my propofol, rebind another one, and then I'll go. But other than, I don't want to be pre-pained for the entire raid. Another reason as well is it makes your stream look like shit because of the pixelation effect that it causes. We're going to move on and we're going to talk about the alpha container. So I'm going to take this out of here, take all this stuff out of here, and you are going to have your alpha container here, just these 4 slots. I will recommend that a sick case is always good, and an injector case is always good, and then usually an alu splint or whatever other item that you would like there. You could keep your BS rounds in there, and then in your rig you would basically just want to keep a CMS kit in there, and don't run a full-size surgery kit until you get your epsilon container. So if you do end up running a serve kit with the epsilon container, you can keep the serve kit in here. Obviously, you can keep your keys in there, you can keep your injectors, you can keep your alu splint, and then you just have one less stack of ammo that you can bring with you. So I always recommend to new players, try and graduate from the alpha container as quickly as you can. It's not as hard as a lot of people think it is. A lot of people are very daunted by the Punisher series of quests, but trust me, get through it. You will thank me later when you upgrade from an alpha container to an epsilon container. Other things you could keep in your alpha container, obviously you could put a docs case in there instead. You can also run a key bar with a dog tags case if you like. And then the only downside is you've got to keep CMS kits in your rig, because I don't think there's really valuable space in there to where you can fit it. Now, you don't have to run an injector case. You could run like, your sick case or your docs case or your key bar and your dog tag case with a CMS kit in there. But I think the sick case with the injector case and a stack of ammo is great, because usually your ammo, especially this wipe, is going to be a lot more valuable than the CMS kit is going to be. And then as far as breaks are concerned, just bring some loose splints in your bag. They're super, super cheap. Just throw like 3 in your bag every raid and you won't have to worry about it. Now, moving on from that, we will progress to the beta container, which is... Where does Peacekeeper sell this at? I feel like it shouldn't be level 3. I feel like it should be a much more lower level for this. Yeah, here it is, the beta container. So in here, you've got a 2x3 slot, and all you're going to want to do is surgery kit on the bottom with your docs case and then your injector case there. I think this is a way better solution, because at least then with the surgery kit in there, you can have the option of fixing breaks, albeit, at a longer time penalty. Although you could also run a sick case there, you could also run an alu splint, you could run your injector case, and then you could also put a CMS kit here if you wanted. Or if you're a much lower level, you could always just put a Saloa here instead, if you want to, preserve your meds a little bit. But I think the sick case or a docs case or a key bar and the injector case, I think is going to be one of the most important things to keep in your container. Absolutely 100%. So those are my thoughts and opinions on what you should keep in your gamma container, your epsilon container, and your alpha container. Now I'm going to talk about the kappa container, because the kappa container is basically the gamma, but it has 3 more slots up here. Lads, all you're going to want to do is, you've got your sick case, you've got your injector case, you've got your ammo, you've got your serve kit, you've got your alu splints. You could maybe keep a spare med in there, or you could just leave the 2 slots free for other stuff that you find in raid. The kappa container doesn't really matter that much anymore, especially now that we can't put mags in there, because when I had a kappa container before, what I would often do is I would just put 2 full 60 rounders in here. But you can't do that anymore. So all you're going to want to do is maybe put more ammo in there, take less ammo in your mags in your rig. That's pretty much it. And then just leave space for, you know, the classic sticking things up your ass in raid. And that's pretty much it. But I'm assuming that a lot of people watching this probably aren't going for Kappa container. And to be honest, I don't really blame you. Kind of a long grind. You log in every day and you do your dailies, you will get it eventually. But, you know, completing all your quests, it's a slog, especially for a reward, you know, like the Kappa container. It's not really that great. A lot of people are like, oh, what are you going to do without your Kappa container when the game wipes? It's like, I don't give a shit. Like, the Gamma container is more than enough for me. The Epsilon container is more than enough for me. And all I basically want to keep in there is my keys, my injectors, a surgery kit, and some ammo. Other than that, I don't really care. Doesn't really make that much of a difference to me. So, guys, this video has been requested a couple of times. So, to the people who requested it, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. And if you guys did, please make sure to leave a like, leave a comment down below. All the links will be in the description for all the socials and all that kind of stuff. If you want to follow me, make sure to follow me over on Twitch as well, where you can catch me streaming Tarkov all the time. So guys, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you guys on the next video. Peace out, my dudes.